Have you ever wondered what truly fills the void in your heart? What brings peace when the storms of life rage? My friend, the answer is closer than you think. It's found in the quiet, powerful presence of God. Time is the most precious gift we have. And when we dedicate even a fraction of it to seeking His presence, something extraordinary happens. We unlock not just peace but purpose, not just blessings but breakthroughs. In today's video, we'll explore the life-changing truth of what happens when you make time for God. This is not just about ticking a box in your daily routine. It's about stepping into His love, aligning your path with His divine will, and witnessing His miraculous power unfold in your life. As Psalm 63 verse 1 reminds us, "O God, you are my God. Early will I seek you. My soul thirsts for you, my flesh longs for you." This thirst, this longing is what draws us closer to Him, where we find life, renewal and strength. Imagine this, starting each day with a heart focused on God, a mind anchored in His Word, and a soul filled with His peace. What could be more powerful than a life rooted in His presence? Together, let's discover the spiritual treasure waiting for you in those moments with Him. If this message inspires you, I encourage you to share it with those you love. Let's spread God's blessings far and wide, reminding each other that in Him, we find everything we need. Stay with me until the end. I promise, this message could transform not just your day but your eternity. Time is the gift we often take for granted, yet it is fleeting, irreplaceable, and deeply connected to our spiritual journey. When we choose to give God the first moments of our day, we are making an investment that transcends this life. It is not just about the ticking of the clock. It is about planting seeds in the fertile soil of eternity. Imagine a farmer entrusted with the best seeds for a life-giving harvest. If he neglects to plant or nurture them, the potential for growth is lost, and the harvest is squandered. Similarly, the moments we dedicate to God have eternal value, shaping not only our relationship with Him, but also the legacy we leave behind. As Psalm 92 verses 12 to 13 says, "The righteous shall flourish like a palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon. Those who are planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish in the courts of our God." These verses paint a vivid picture of strength, stability and flourishing, all of which come from being deeply rooted in God's presence. When we make time for Him, we are like those trees, firmly planted and able to withstand the trials and storms of life. Without this intentional planting, we risk spiritual dryness, leaving our hearts vulnerable to fear, doubt, and worldly distractions. Consider for a moment the treasure hidden in these quiet moments with God. They are not fleeting exchanges but sacred investments in your soul. Each prayer whispered, each verse meditated upon, becomes a deposit in your spiritual bank account, one that grows and bears fruit over time. These moments align our hearts with His will, and when we align with God, His blessings and guidance flow freely into our lives. You might be wondering, how do I begin? It starts with a choice, choosing to give God your first and best moments rather than what is left over. Begin your day with a simple prayer, acknowledging His presence and inviting Him into your heart. Say, "Lord, this day is yours. Guide me, strengthen me, and align my steps with your will." These words, though simple, carry the power to set the tone for your day, grounding you in peace and purpose. Imagine waking up each morning with a heart attuned to God. Instead of reaching for your phone or worrying about the tasks ahead, you take a moment to connect with Him. This practice not only calms your mind but also shifts your perspective. Suddenly, the burdens of life feel lighter because you are carrying them with God. Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 reminds us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths." When we start our day by acknowledging God, He directs our steps, filling our journey with clarity and purpose. Think of the challenges you face daily, pressures at work, tensions in relationships, or even the quiet battles within your own heart. Now imagine approaching these challenges after spending time with God. Your spirit is fortified, your perspective is renewed, and your decisions are anchored in His wisdom. These moments with God are not just acts of devotion. They are acts of preparation for life's battles. They are the foundation upon which you build a life that thrives, even in the face of adversity. There is also a peace that comes from this time, a peace the world cannot replicate. It is the peace of knowing that you are not alone, that the Creator of the universe walks with you, guiding and protecting you. As Isaiah 26 verse 3 assures us, you will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you. This peace is not dependent on circumstances. It is a gift from God to those who choose to dwell in his presence. Moreover, these moments with God influence not only your own life but also the lives of those around you. When your heart is filled with his love and grace, it naturally overflows into your relationships. Your family, friends, and even co-workers begin to see the light of God shining through you. You become a source of encouragement, wisdom, and strength for others. The time you invest with God has a ripple effect, reaching beyond your own life to impact your community and the world. Picture this. A single seed planted in fertile soil grows into a tree that provides shade, fruit, and shelter. The same is true of the time you spend with God. It bears fruit not only in your life but also in the lives of those who encounter you. This is the eternal value of making time for God. It is not just for today or tomorrow, it is for eternity. So my friend, let me encourage you. Start small but start now. Dedicate just 10 minutes a day to prayer, scripture reading, or quiet reflection. Find a verse that speaks to your heart and meditate on it. Invite God into your daily routines. Whether it's during your morning coffee, your commute, or before you rest at night. These moments, though brief, hold the power to transform your heart and your life. As you do, remember the words of Matthew 6 verses 19 to 20. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. The time you spend with God is a treasure that cannot be taken away. It is an investment in eternity, a step toward a life filled with peace, purpose, and unshakable faith. Take this step today and watch how God moves in your life. You are not just making time for him. You are making room for his blessings, his guidance, and his love to fill every corner of your life. There is something extraordinary that happens when you step into the presence of God. It is not just a momentary experience. It is a profound transformation that touches every corner of your heart, your mind, and your life. God's presence is not distant or reserved for a select few. It is available to all who seek him earnestly. When you make time to connect with him, his presence becomes the anchor that steadies you, the light that guides you, and the strength that sustains you. Consider the story of Mary and Martha in Luke 10 verses 38 to 42. It is a tale many of us can relate to. Caught in the tension between our endless tasks and the pull of God's presence, Martha, though well-meaning, allowed the busyness of serving to distract her from the opportunity to sit at the feet of Jesus. Mary, on the other hand, chose to prioritize his presence, soaking in his words and his wisdom. Jesus commended Mary's decision, saying she had chosen what is better, and it would not be taken from her. This story speaks directly to the reality of our modern lives. We are surrounded by distractions, emails, deadlines, social media, and countless responsibilities. Yet, in the midst of this noise, God calls us to pause and prioritize him. It is not about neglecting our duties but about reordering our hearts. When we make the intentional choice to sit at the feet of Jesus, we experience the transformative power of his presence. What does this transformation look like? First, it begins within. God's presence has the power to heal the broken parts of your heart, to calm your anxious thoughts, and to replace fear with faith. Psalm 16 verse 11 reminds us, "In your presence is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore." This joy is not fleeting. It is the deep and abiding joy that comes from knowing you are fully loved, fully seen, and fully accepted by your Creator. Imagine starting your day with this assurance. Instead of waking up burdened by the demands of the world, you rise with a heart filled with God's peace. This peace, as Philippians 4 verse 7 says, surpasses all understanding. It guards your heart and mind, shielding you from the chaos and uncertainties of life. In his presence you are reminded that you are not alone, that the battles you face are not yours to fight alone, and that his grace is sufficient for every challenge. Beyond the personal transformation, God's presence changes the way you see others. When your heart is filled with His love, it naturally overflows into your relationships. You begin to approach people with grace, compassion, and patience. This is the ripple effect of His presence. It touches your family, your friends, and even those you encounter briefly throughout your day. Let's return to the story of Mary and Martha. Imagine how differently Martha's day could have unfolded if she had paused, even briefly, to join Mary at Jesus' feet. The tasks would still be there, but her heart would be aligned with God's peace and purpose. This alignment is what transforms our actions from mere busyness into meaningful service. But how do we cultivate this connection? Starts with intentionality. Just as Mary chose to set aside her distractions, we too must make the conscious decision to prioritize God. Create a space in your home where you can meet with Him. A corner for prayer, a quiet room for reading scripture, or even a seat by the window where you can reflect on His goodness. Prayer is another key to unlocking the transformative power of God's presence. Prayer is not just about speaking. It is about listening, about pouring out your heart to God and waiting for His still small voice to guide you. As Jeremiah 29 verse 13 says, "You will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart." This is a promise, a guarantee that when you make time for God, He will meet you right where you are. Consider too the power of worship. Worship shifts your focus from your struggles to God's greatness. It reminds you of who He is, faithful, mighty, and unchanging. In worship your heart is lifted, your burdens are lightened, and your spirit is renewed. John 4 verse 23 tells us, "The true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father is seeking such to worship Him." When we worship, we invite His presence into our lives, and in His presence we are transformed. This transformation is not a one-time event. It is a daily renewal. Each time you step into God's presence, you are being shaped into His likeness. Your thoughts begin to align with His thoughts, your desires with His desires. As 2 Corinthians 3 verse 18 says, "But we all with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory." Think of it this way: spending time with God is like standing in the sun. The longer you stand, the more its warmth and light penetrate your being. Similarly, the more time you spend with God, the more His love, wisdom, and peace penetrate your life. But transformation does not end with you. It equips you to be a light in a world that desperately needs hope. When you walk into a room filled with God's presence, you bring with you an atmosphere of peace and encouragement. Your words, your actions, and even your demeanor reflect the heart of God. Take the story of Peter and John in Acts 4 verse 13. The people marveled at their boldness and realized they had been with Jesus. This is the power of God's presence. It makes His work in you undeniable. So my friend, let me encourage you. No matter where you are today, God's presence is available to you. It is not reserved for the perfect or the pious. It is for the weary, the broken, and the seeking. He is ready to meet you in the quiet moments of your day, and to transform your heart with His love. Make the choice today to prioritize Him. Set aside the distractions, find a quiet space, and step into His presence. Pray, worship, and listen. As you do, you will find that His presence changes everything. Your perspective, your priorities, and your purpose. And remember, this transformation is not just for you. It is for the world around you. A world that needs to see the light of God through your life. When you make time for Him, you not only experience His power, but you also become a vessel of His grace, carrying His love into every corner of your life. This is the transformative power of God's presence. Step into it today and let Him work wonders in your life. When you make time for God, something extraordinary happens. Not just within you but in the lives of those around you. His love, grace, and wisdom flow into your heart, transforming how you see and interact with the people in your life. Relationships that once felt strained can find healing, and connections that seemed distant can draw closer. The ripple effect of spending time with God extends far beyond your personal walk with Him. It touches your family, friends, and even strangers you meet along the way. God's love is not meant to be contained. It is meant to overflow. As 1 John 4 verse 19 reminds us, we love because He first loved us. When you experience God's unconditional love, it reshapes how you love others. His patience becomes your patience, His kindness your kindness, and His forgiveness your forgiveness. You begin to reflect His character in your actions and words, creating a space where others feel valued, respected, and seen. Take a moment to reflect on your closest relationships. Are there moments of tension or misunderstanding? Perhaps there are words unspoken or wounds left unattended. Now imagine approaching those same relationships with a heart transformed by God's presence. Instead of reacting with frustration or defensiveness, you respond with grace and empathy. This shift, though subtle, can change the entire atmosphere of your home, workplace, or community. One of the most beautiful examples of this is found in the life of Jesus Himself. Everywhere He went, His presence brought healing, restoration, and peace. He reached out to the outcasts, forgave the sinners, and loved the unloved. His actions demonstrated that relationships are sacred and that love, when rooted in God, has the power to mend even the deepest fractures. When you spend time with God, you invite Him to be the foundation of your relationships. Like a house built on rock, as described in Matthew 7 verses 24 to 25. Relationships anchored in His presence can withstand the storms of life. Disagreements, disappointments, and challenges may come, but they will not destroy the bond because it is fortified by God's love. Let's consider an everyday example. A family dinner. Imagine sitting down at the table after a day filled with stress and chaos. The temptation might be to vent frustrations or retreat into silence. But when you've spent time with God earlier in the day, your perspective shifts. Instead of seeing the meal as another task, you see it as an opportunity. A moment to connect, to listen, and to encourage. Your words become seasoned with grace, lifting others up rather than tearing them down. Colossians 4 verse 6 says, "Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone." This doesn't mean avoiding hard conversations. Rather, it means approaching them with wisdom and a heart led by God. The time you spend with Him equips you to navigate even the most difficult discussions with clarity and compassion. The ripple effect doesn't stop with family or close friends. It extends to your workplace, your community, and beyond. When you carry the presence of God with you, it is evident to those around you. Your co-workers may notice the peace in your demeanor, the thoughtfulness in your decisions, or the kindness in your interactions. These small yet powerful actions can plant seeds of curiosity and hope in others, drawing them closer to the God you serve. Acts 4 verse 13 recounts how people recognized that Peter and John had been with Jesus. Because of their boldness and wisdom, their time with Christ had left an unmistakable mark, one that couldn't be hidden. In the same way, when you make time for God, it shows. It shows in how you speak, how you listen, and how you love. Even brief encounters with strangers can carry the ripple effect of God's presence. A kind word to a cashier, a gesture of patience in traffic, or a smile to a passerby may seem small, but in God's hands, these acts can have eternal impact. You may never know how your actions touch someone's heart, but rest assured that God uses even the smallest moments to bring His love to the world. Another key aspect of this ripple effect is forgiveness. Relationships often suffer because of unresolved hurts or grudges. Yet when you spend time with God, you are reminded of the forgiveness He extends to you. As Matthew 6 verses 14 to 15 teaches, "For if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you." Forgiveness becomes not just an obligation but a reflection of God's grace in your life. It frees you from bitterness and opens the door to reconciliation. Imagine the healing that could take place if forgiveness became a natural part of your relationships. Parents and children could rebuild trust, friends could mend broken bonds, and marriages could find new strength. These are the ripples of God's love at work, healing what was broken and strengthening what remains. Finally, the ripple effect extends to the next generation. When children see parents prioritizing time with God, it sets an example that shapes their understanding of faith and love. They learn that God's presence is not just for Sunday mornings, but for every moment of every day. Proverbs 22 verse 6 reminds us, "Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old they will not turn from it." Your time with God becomes a legacy, passed down through words, actions, and prayers. So my friend, let me encourage you. The time you spend with God is never wasted. It transforms you from the inside out, equipping you to bring His light and love into every relationship. It strengthens bonds, heals wounds, and creates a ripple effect that reaches far beyond what you can see. Today, take a moment to reflect on the relationships in your life. Ask God to guide you, to fill you with His love, and to use you as a vessel of His grace. As you do, remember that His presence changes everything, not just for you but for everyone you touch. This is the power of God at work, transforming hearts, mending relationships, and spreading His love one ripple at a time. In a world that constantly pulls us in 1,000 directions, finding time for God can feel like an impossible task. Notifications buzz, emails flood in, deadlines loom, and social media beckons with its endless scroll. Yet amidst this chaos, there is a quiet voice calling you back. A gentle reminder that nothing is more essential than time spent with God. Distractions are powerful, but they are not insurmountable. Today, let us explore how to overcome these modern obstacles and make God the center of your life. Distractions are not new. Even in biblical times, people wrestled with prioritizing their time and attention. In Matthew 22 verses 1 to 5, Jesus tells the parable of a king who invited guests to a wedding feast. Instead of rejoicing and accepting the invitation, many were consumed by their businesses and personal pursuits. They missed the honor of sitting at the king's table because their focus was misplaced. How often do we, too, allow the urgent to overshadow the eternal? The first step to overcoming distractions is recognizing their presence in your life. Ask yourself, what consumes your time and energy? Is it work, social media, endless to-do lists? While these things are not inherently bad, they can subtly take priority over your relationship with God. Hebrews 12 verse 1 urges us to lay aside every weight, and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and run with endurance the race that is set before us. The weights in our lives are not always sinful. They can be good things that are out of place. One practical way to address distractions is by setting boundaries. Create a sacred space and time in your day that belongs to God alone. This could be a quiet corner of your home, early mornings before the world stirs, or even moments during your lunch break. Turn off your phone, close your laptop, and give God your undivided attention. Just as we prioritize appointments or deadlines, we must prioritize our time with Him. Consider this. Would you interrupt a meeting with someone important to check your phone? Then why do we allow distractions to interrupt our time with the Creator of the universe? Proverbs 3 verse 6 reminds us, "In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths." This acknowledgement requires deliberate effort, a conscious decision to choose God above the noise. Another key to overcoming distractions is cultivating mindfulness. Distractions often thrive because our minds are scattered, jumping from one thought to the next. But when we approach our time with God with focus and intentionality, something changes. We begin to experience His peace, which surpasses understanding. Philippians 4 verse 7. This peace quiets the chaos within and helps us stay rooted in His presence. Start small. Dedicate just 10 minutes a day to prayer or reading scripture. Meditate on a single verse, letting its truth sink deep into your heart. Psalm 46 verse 10 encourages us, "Be still and know that I am God." In the stillness we hear His voice more clearly, and the distractions lose their power. Technology is one of the greatest distractions we face today, but it can also be a tool for good if used wisely. Use apps designed to enhance your spiritual life, such as Bible reading plans or daily devotional reminders. Set limits on your screen time and replace scrolling with intentional prayer or reflection. These small changes can create significant shifts in how you engage with God. Moreover, remember that God doesn't require perfection, only your willingness. There will be days when distractions creep in, when your time with Him feels rushed or distant. Don't let these moments discourage you. Instead, return to Him with a humble heart, knowing that His mercies are new every morning. Lamentations 3 verses 22 to 23. One way to guard against distractions is by inviting God into every aspect of your life. Pray as you go about your daily tasks. Speak to Him while driving, cooking, or walking. Let Him be part of your work, your conversations, and your decisions. When you acknowledge His presence in the ordinary, the extraordinary happens. You begin to see His hand in every detail of your day. Accountability can also be a powerful tool. Surround yourself with a community of believers who encourage and challenge you to stay rooted in your faith. Ecclesiastes 4 verses 9 to 10 reminds us, "Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up." Share your struggles with distractions, and let others walk alongside you as you grow closer to God. Another essential practice is guarding your thoughts. Distractions often stem from within. Worries about the future, regrets about the past, or feelings of inadequacy. But Scripture teaches us to take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ. 2 Corinthians 10 verse 5. When your mind begins to wander, redirect it toward God's promises. Speak His truth over your life, reminding yourself of His faithfulness and provision. Finally, remember that overcoming distractions is a journey, not a destination. It requires daily commitment in reliance on God's strength. But as you take these steps, you will begin to notice a shift. The distractions that once felt overwhelming will lose their grip, and your time with God will become a source of joy, peace, and renewal. Imagine the transformation that awaits when you choose to prioritize God. Your spirit will be refreshed, your relationships will deepen, and your perspective on life will change. The noise of the world will fade as His voice becomes clearer. You will find strength for the challenges ahead and peace in the midst of uncertainty. So, my friend, let me encourage you today. Do not let distractions rob you of the joy and fulfillment that come from time spent with God. Lay aside the weights, set your focus on Him, and watch as He works in ways you never imagined. In His presence there is clarity, purpose, and peace that cannot be shaken. Choose Him above the noise, and let Him be the center of your life. When you live in the overflow of God's presence, everything changes. It's not just about surviving each day. It's about thriving in every moment, filled with His love, grace, and power. The overflow is the abundant life Jesus promised in John 10 verse 10. "I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." This fullness isn't tied to your circumstances, but flows directly from a deep connection with God. The overflow begins when you dedicate time to be with Him. Each moment spent in His presence is like filling a cup. At first, the cup holds just enough for you. But as you consistently seek Him, His presence begins to pour out beyond your own needs, spilling into every part of your life and touching those around you. This is the transformative beauty of living in the overflow. It doesn't stop with you. It impacts your family, your community, and even strangers you encounter. Imagine starting your day immersed in prayer, reflecting on His Word, and inviting His presence into your heart. From that foundation, you carry peace into your interactions, joy into your work, and hope into challenging situations. As Isaiah 26 verse 3 assures us, "You will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you." This peace anchors your soul, no matter the storms you face. The overflow of God's presence also changes your perspective. Challenges that once felt insurmountable begin to shrink in the light of His greatness. Take the story of King Jehoshaphat in 2 Chronicles 20. When faced with a vast army, fear could have paralyzed him. But instead of focusing on the problem, he sought God's presence. Through prayer and worship, Jehoshaphat was reminded that the battle wasn't his to fight. It belonged to the Lord. This shift in perspective came from living in the overflow, where trusting God replaces fear and uncertainty. But how do we reach this place of overflow? Starts with consistency. Just as a river overflows when it is continually fed by its source, your life overflows when you continually draw from God. This means making Him a priority, not just on Sundays but every day. Begin with small steps. Set aside 10 minutes each morning to pray, read a verse, or simply sit in silence, acknowledging His presence. These moments, though seemingly small, are the building blocks of a life lived in the overflow. Living in the overflow also requires surrender. Letting go of control and trusting God can feel daunting, but it is essential. Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 reminds us to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths. When you release your worries, ambitions, and plans to Him, you create space for His power to work in and through you. Another key to living in the overflow is gratitude. When you spend time with God, you become more aware of His blessings. Psalm 100 verse 4 encourages us to enter His gates with thanksgiving and His courts with praise. Gratitude shifts your focus from what you lack to the abundance of what God has already provided. This attitude not only deepens your relationship with Him, but also fosters contentment and joy that radiate to others. The overflow of God's presence equips you to serve with love and compassion. Consider the example of Dorcas, a disciple in Acts 9 verses 36 to 39. Her life was marked by good works and charitable deeds, and her impact on her community was so profound that they grieved deeply when she passed away. Dorcas lived in the overflow, allowing God's love to flow through her actions, making a lasting difference. When you live in the overflow, your words and deeds reflect God's heart, inspiring and uplifting those around you. This overflow also sharpens your ability to hear His voice. In a world filled with noise, discerning God's guidance requires intentional time in His presence. Isaiah 30 verse 21 says, "Your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, 'This is the way, walk in it.'" The more you tune into His voice, the clearer His direction becomes, enabling you to navigate life's decisions with confidence and wisdom. Living in the overflow strengthens your resilience. Life is filled with trials, but when you draw from God's presence, you find the strength to endure. The Apostle Paul understood this well, declaring in 2 Corinthians 12 verses 9 to 10, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness." This strength doesn't come from within, but from a heart that continually abides in God. Lastly, the overflow of God's presence makes you a light in the world. Matthew 5 verse 14 calls us the light of the world, a light that cannot be hidden. When you live in the overflow, your life becomes a testimony of His love and faithfulness. People will see His peace in your demeanor, His joy in your actions, and His hope in your words. So how do you begin? Start by inviting God into your daily life. Create moments of connection, whether through prayer, worship, or reflection. Surrender your heart to Him, trusting that He will meet you with His grace and power. And as you do, watch as His presence fills you to overflowing, transforming not only your life but also the lives of everyone you touch. Living in the overflow of God's presence is not just a gift. It is your calling. It is the life He desires for you. A life marked by peace, purpose, and an abundance of His love. Step into the overflow today, and let His presence flow through you, creating a ripple effect that reaches far beyond what you can imagine. As we come to the end of this journey together, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've uncovered. Time with God is not just a habit, it is a lifeline. It is the anchor that keeps you steady in the storms, the light that guides you through the darkness, and the source of peace that surpasses all understanding. When you prioritize God, you're not just investing in your relationship with Him. You're building a foundation for a life filled with purpose, love, and resilience. Think about the ripple effects we discussed. The way God's presence transforms not only your heart but your relationships, your perspective, and your ability to navigate life's challenges. This isn't just about you. It's about how His presence flows through you, touching the lives of your family, friends, and even strangers. You become a vessel of His grace, spreading hope and encouragement wherever you go. Imagine waking up each morning, not weighed down by worries but filled with the assurance that God is with you. Imagine facing your day knowing that you don't have to rely on your own strength, because His strength is made perfect in your weakness. This is the power of God's presence. It changes everything. As Psalm 46 verse 10 reminds us, "Be still, and know that I am God." These simple yet profound words are an invitation to pause, to rest, and to trust. They remind us that in the busyness of life, It is in stillness and surrender that we truly connect with Him. No matter what challenges you're facing right now, whether it's a heavy heart, a difficult decision, or an uncertain future, God is waiting to meet you. His arms are open wide, ready to give you the peace, guidance, and strength you need. But this connection requires intentionality. It means setting aside distractions, creating space in your day for Him, and choosing to make Him a priority. It might mean waking up a little earlier, turning off your phone, or stepping away from the noise to sit quietly in His presence. These small acts of devotion create a powerful foundation, one that allows His blessings to overflow into every area of your life. And when His presence overflows, it changes how you see the world. Suddenly you begin to notice His hand in the little things. A kind word from a friend, the beauty of a sunrise, or the strength to face another day. Gratitude fills your heart, and His joy becomes your strength. You see, God doesn't just want to be part of your life. He wants to be the center of it. He longs to walk with you, to guide you, and to equip you for every challenge. He is not distant. He is near. As James 4 verse 8 promises, draw near to God, and He will draw near to you. So my friend, let me challenge you as we step into this new season. Make the decision today to dedicate time to God daily. Start small if you need to, but start. Open His Word and let it speak to your heart. Pour out your worries to Him in prayer and listen for His still small voice. Worship Him with a heart full of gratitude, knowing that He is faithful to meet you where you are. And as you do, don't keep this experience to yourself. Share it with others. Tell your family and friends about the peace and hope you found in God's presence. Encourage them to take that step of faith, to make time for Him, and to watch how He transforms their lives. Share your stories in the comments below. Moments where you felt God's presence, times when His guidance carried you through, or prayers that were answered in ways you never expected. Let this space become a community of encouragement and testimony, a place where we can uplift one another and celebrate the work God is doing in our lives. And if you feel inspired, take this message beyond the screen. Reach out to someone who needs to hear about God's love. Offer a prayer, extend kindness, or simply be present for them. Remember, living in the overflow of God's presence isn't just about receiving. It's about giving. It's about being His hands and feet in a world that desperately needs hope. As we close, let me leave you with this reminder from Ephesians 3 verses 20 to 21. Now to Him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us, to Him be glory in the Church by Christ Jesus to all generations, forever and ever. God's power is at work in you, my friend. His love, wisdom, and strength are more than enough for whatever lies ahead. Trust Him, seek Him, and live in the fullness of His presence. May this new season be one of growth, peace, and blessings for you. May you find joy in the little moments, strength in the challenges, and hope in the promises of God. And may His presence overflow in your life, touching everyone you meet with His love and grace. Let's step into this season together, with hearts open to His leading and lives dedicated to His glory. Take a moment today to sit with Him, to listen, and to let His presence fill you anew. You are never alone. He is with you always. And don't forget to share your journey in the comments. Let's encourage one another to stay rooted in His Word, to walk in His ways, and to live in the abundance of His love.